All right. Excuse me. It's a little congested. Good morning, everybody. Welcome into our, let's see, we are in the 18-week stats class, Tuesday, Thursday. Basically gonna get us caught up. By the way, a couple of technical issues that we were having last time seem to be fixed. Zoom seems to be working fine again, so if you want to hop into the Zoom meeting, you can. If you want to stay on the YouTube stream, do it that way. That's perfectly fine, but Zoom seems to be, it was what I thought it was. There was a setting inside, and there's tons of setting for Zoom. It seems like all you do is just show up, right? But there's so many settings for the teachers to set, and I had to find the one that got changed during an update and set it back so that then my stuff just works properly. But it's working now, so Zoom's good. We can go back to how that was. Oh, and then the other technical issue last time was when I tried to post the results, it didn't work right. I think most people have seen from the things I'm seeing people talk about, it looks like that's all fixed. So you should be able to go in, you go into the same place you took the survey. So at the end of chapter 2, you click on there. It's got the survey results. So you can see the original survey, you can see the survey results, and you can go in and you can get your data, right? So you can, that data is available to you now. And the main thing I'll be talking about today is you actually just pay attention. You have 3 upcoming assignments that have to do with the project. Now that might sound intimidating, but like one of them's actually really easy. One of them takes a little bit more effort. And then one of them, you'll have to have understood chapter 4 in order to do the project correlation piece. But I'm going to walk through all those today and try to make sense of them. And then you can figure out, what it is that you're looking at. So you should be able to get into that now. Oh, the other thing I wanted to mention, just because we're sort of expecting this is going to be a major disruption that's going to be happening going forward. So it helps if students are informed. Even if all of our students are informed, it's still going to be a major disruption and I think cause lots of issues. Just because of I'm not saying it's a good or bad thing that we're doing. It's just that the transition for people, some people are going to probably get frustrated with the situation and stuff like that. Although I don't directly have to deal with it right now. But just as a reminder, so vaccines are a thing, right? They're in the world. And whether you're someone who, likes science or you're someone who doesn't like science, we still sort of have vaccines that we're dealing with. The YouTube channel should be up. There's people, someone's asking me a question. The YouTube channel should be up. The stream should be up. There's people who left comments in there, so there's about 15 people in there right now. So you can switch however you want to do it. Whether you're someone who doesn't like science or you do like science, whatever, I don't want to get into a vaccine discussion here about the pros and cons of vaccines. We're not really in the, it's not really the discussion for today. But the school has implemented a vaccine mandate, which is sort of we're in the middle of it taking effect. If you wanted your stuff processed, I think you were supposed to have it in by October 1st, at least for faculty. I had mine in months ago, so I don't have to worry about it. But they're trying to get faculty to turn their stuff in by October 1st so that they can be approved by the 15th, which is the cutoff. So right now, if you try to go to campus, you have to get through the screening zone. And when it gives you your little all clear, if it's blue, like I don't think do I have mine up? Anyways, you know what blue is. I don't have to show you. If your pass is blue, that means they accepted your vaccine. You're vaccinated, unless it's different for students, but I think it's the same thing. So that means that the school has acknowledged your vaccine records. You're all good to go. Right now, we're in that 2-week period where everything's changing. I think you can still get on campus if you're not vaccinated, but only for a short period longer. What will happen in the next couple of weeks is even if you go to school and you pass all the, if you've had to do the pass where it says, have you had symptoms in the last 14 days? Have you had
Have you been exposed to anyone with coronavirus in the last 14 days and stuff like that? You go through all that, and then it gives you your little pass. Then they put the bracelet on you, and then you can walk around campus. I don't know what color it is if you're not vaccinated, because mine's always blue, and the blue means vaccinated. So I don't know what other color there is, but we're gonna hit a point here pretty soon where if you don't have the blue one for vaccinated, you don't get to come on campus, right? So that's happening. So I just want to make sure everyone realizes we're about to hit that zone, right, where you will not be able to come on campus if you are not vaccinated. And that includes the spring when you're trying to take classes. And I know a lot of people are kind of have the opinion of, well, this online thing's working out pretty good for me. I'll just take online classes. What you want to recognize is that the administration has forced that all teachers, so all professors, are supposed to do 60%. A couple, for logistical reasons, a couple got away with 50%. But all of us are teaching at least 60% on ground in the spring, which means there's going to be significantly less online classes, right? Which means if you're someone who's trying to not get the vaccine, you may not get into classes in the spring because there's going to be only so many online classes in the spring. There'll be more than we used to have, like 3-4 years ago, but it's not going to be like it has been for the last year and a half, 2 years, where you can just take whatever you want online. It's going to go from 100% online basically to like 40% online. So that's a lot less classes, and then realize that a lot of the people that are going to sign up for online classes are also vaccinated. So it's not like it's if I'm vaccinated, I'll just get in, or if I'm unvaccinated, I'll just get in one of those online courses. You may not be able to because there's significantly less of them. So I'm only telling you this so you can plan accordingly, right? Also, the state has issued a vaccine mandate for K-12. So any of you that are still in high school, at least under the current plan, you will be getting vaccinated by summer anyways. For the start of next year, you'll have to get vaccinated. So just be aware of that, because it literally could keep you, like, there's going to be students who signed up for classes and get turned away, right? They're doing the same thing with faculty. Is they're telling us now, with the vaccine mandate in place, if you can't come to class because we turn you away because you're not vaccinated, that's your sick time. You start using up your sick time because you're not coming to campus doing that. So, which for me isn't a problem because I got the vaccine. But, some people are making their own decisions about whether they want to get the vaccine or not. Just be aware as a student, this is going to affect you. So if you're someone who maybe you're okay with getting the vaccine, you just haven't got around to doing it yet, you might want to, because otherwise you're going to find yourself in a bit of a crunch trying to get the vaccine and then it's not just that I got the vaccine. You also have to get the school your paperwork and they approve you that you got it, right? You can't just say, oh yeah, I got the vaccine. You have to show like a card that you got the vaccine. And then that takes a little while, because you can imagine there's 10,000 students. It's going to take them a while to go through and actually approve that paperwork. So for those of you who are taking classes in the spring, you're likely going to end up, like, some of you might get all your classes online, but most of you are probably going to end up in at least one on-ground class. I'd start planning your vaccine situation now and get your paperwork submitted to the school. You can do that through the VCCCD app on your phone. That's how I did it. You just take a picture of your vaccine card, submit it, and then within some period of time, it will be your account. They just sort of change a setting in your account. You go from unvaccinated to vaccinated. But I suspect the closer we get to the spring semester, that backlog, it's going to take them longer and longer, right? Like right now, if you submit it, it may be maybe a day. They'll approve you as, okay, you're a vaccinated individual. If you wait until the first day of school and then go, oh, they're not letting me on campus, I did get my vaccine, I better submit that form. It could be weeks before they get everything taken care of, because it's like 10,000 students. So just be aware of that, right? I think it's probably going to be a big disorganized mess when we're doing it, or at least it might not be disorganized, but it'll be a mess as far as, like, people are going to be mad. Well, what do you mean I can't go to my class? I paid to go to that class. Well, you didn't didn't do the vaccine rule. So just make sure that you're aware of those procedures and those regulations, and that you are planning accordingly so that it doesn't hold you back in your class, and then all of a sudden you're not getting homework done or something like that, right? So you can make the decision about what you want to do for the spring, what's right for you and your decisions as far as vaccines, but just be aware of what you need to do if you decide to get or not get the vaccine, okay? Okay, enough about vaccines. I just want to make sure everyone knows. I know you've all gotten actually emails sent out to you describing all of this, but I know students frequently don't get the emails that we send out as the school. So just be aware that that's occurring. Okay? All right. So moving ahead with things, we've got our you've got some project stuff you're working on. So some of it is going back in time because we already kind of talked about in chapter 2, you kind of looked at ways of organizing data and displays and visualizations, but you didn't have your survey data yet. We hadn't completed that. Now you have your survey data. You can go back and make those. And that'll be great because spend a little bit of time now getting your visuals, and you might decide to add some visuals along the way during the semester. That's great, right? But if you're doing the bulk of your work after each chapter, then it's not going to be so intimidating when you get to the end of the semester and you're like, man, I got to do my whole project now. Well, you've already done a bunch of it. You just go back here and look at what you posted and use that. You literally use what you created. And like I said, if it was me, I'd also create a folder on my desktop, and every time I make one of these, just save it into there so you have all these available to you to use at the end of the semester. It's a little different than if it's, it's not quite as, it's more convenient to have it in a folder than just having to go back and find all these. But you can go back and look at what you did by looking at your posting in these. I will remind you, each student is doing their own project. You're in groups to help each other out and guide each other through. And when one of you has a question, you explain it to each other. Each of you is doing your own project, and each of you needs to respond to these in order to get the points. So if you want the 10 points in here, you have to leave your stuff, your information in there, right? It's a discussion that you get points for. You don't get points if you're not in the discussion, right? Sometimes there's still people confused and saying, oh no, so-and-so mentioned me in their post. No, you have to make your own post, right? It's just that first sentence that's in all of them. Each group member needs to post to receive credit. That means make a comment. Post, make a comment, same thing, right? So make sure you're doing that so that you can get your credit. And then also, you're completing parts of the project that you're ultimately going to put together for a presentation down the road. So let's work through those today, and then we'll talk a little bit more about correlation because some of you are probably not completely comfortable with correlation, and we'll talk about what's expected for the project part of that correlation coming up. But first, let's start up here. So for the survey question summary, again, each group member must post in order to receive credit, right? We just talked about that. Take your survey and analyze them using the tools learned in this chapter. So this one's real basic. The analysis here is not deep level analysis that we're going to be learning over the course of the rest of the semester. I mean, this is like your 5-number summary stuff, basically. So, so what we're looking at is, say, StatCrunch. I made up an example today. This is just a made-up example, but, I've got height versus shoe size, and we can do some analysis on this. So what I would do, I would go in, you go to Stat, Summary Stats. We want to look at the columns. Okay, columns. And I want to look at, say, shoe size. And then see all these things that are highlighted? You can pick more. You can add more, but these are kind of the main ones that you would want. Maybe you would add the mode, but probably not. You can just calculate the mode if you want separately. But you could throw that in there. You can throw in any of these other stats that you think are valuable. But these are kind of the default ones. N, which is that for me, that should be 20. That's the number of, remember, that's the number of data points that you have in your data set is N. You've got your mean, which we talked about. You've got your standard deviation, which hopefully you're comfortable with. We've got the median. The range is just how wide out, it's the maximum value minus the minimum value. So what's the difference between, what's the total spread of your data? That can be helpful. Max, min can be helpful, especially when you're trying to make graphs. And then Q1 and Q3, these things are helpful when you're doing, if you're doing the box plots and stuff like that. Now, if you're doing a box plot, probably StatCrunch is going to do it for you, but at least you'll understand what you're looking at, okay? So I go in, I say I want shoe size, I hit compute, and look what I just got. It says, oh, for shoe size, in the United States shoe size, because it's different in the UK, they measure feet differently and stuff. But, we have all this information then. So I have an N of 20, the mean of 9.525, standard deviation of 1.28, median of 9.5. So look, my mean and my median are pretty close together. That's always interesting. You always want to look at your mean and your median and try to figure out, are they the same or are they different? Because if they're the same, you probably have a largely well-behaved data set. And what does that mean, well-behaved? Well, there's not a lot of weird behavior. It's not skewed one way or the other necessarily. When you start seeing if your mean and your median give you quite a bit different values, that's when you start looking for, I wonder is my data skewed? What's going on with my data? And then that oftentimes leads to very interesting behavior in your data that you can start to uncover. So you look at your mean, your median, and you've got your other data here. So this part of the discussion, the topic survey questions, isn't meant to be anything fancy. It's literally just getting you comfortable with StatCrunch, getting you comfortable with using the survey results data so that you know how to go in there. Remember, you may have to format a little bit of your data. Like here, we saw some people would put like 70 inches. If you have someone here, so watch this. I don't remember if we did this last time in here or not, but let's say I've got this 70 inches. So a lot of people will answer the height question. Some people will just put the number, and some people will put the unit. But look what happens when I try to do that. If I go in now, where is it? Summary stats, columns, shoe size. Oops, that's height. Let me choose height. Compute. Notice how it says I have an N of 20, but look, I have 21 data points. Why is that? It's because this one right here, StatCrunch kicked out and says, that's a word. I don't know what to do with a word. I know what to do with numbers. You have a word here. And so it just ignored this data point. So if you're someone who has that, where you're using a question where the numbers aren't all formatted well, you have to go in and make that adjustment. You can just copy a column over into your own version of StatCrunch if you want, so you can save it, so you don't have to keep doing this every time. Just copy where are we? You can just copy a column, move it over to your own personal StatCrunch that you can save, and then format all this. So you would just go in here and you would say, oh, let's get rid of this part where it says inches. Let's just make this 70. 70. See how it went from 70 inches to 70? Now, when I do this again, if I go in, I go summary stats, columns, height, compute. See how now my N is 21? Because now it's recognizing all 21 of my data points and saying, okay, here's your data right here. And it's taking that into account. Okay? So make sure that you're doing that. If half your data isn't being counted because you didn't format it, then you're sort of starting off on a bad foot. And statistics is one of those things where if you make a mistake early on, everything after it is just like out the window. It doesn't mean a whole lot. So that's why we had to pick really good questions, because if you pick bad questions, anything after that is useless. And then when we get our data, we got to make sure that the computer understands the data, because if not, then the work you do on the data won't make any sense, right? You kind of have to, every step has to be good. Otherwise, everything that follows that will be bad. If it's a yes or no question, could we change the yes to 1 and no to 2? Okay, so that's a great question. I see students do that. So you don't want to do that, because a yes-no question is actually a numerical or is a categorical question. You either agree with something or you disagree with it. And I see students do that where they try to they try to change it into numerical data, and then they do things like take the mean and stuff like that. But you shouldn't do that with categorical data. So there isn't going to be a mean for like a yes-no question, right? You'll have a proportion. You'll end up with you should have a proportion so that you can say 68% of the class owns an automobile or something, whatever your question was, you should be able to come up with a proportion for that. Okay. So depending on what it was, but you can go through and you can calculate that. But yeah, don't convert your things to numbers and then try to take the mean, because it doesn't really make as much sense, right? So in that case, so only use the summary stats that make sense for a particular question that we're looking at. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, great. Okay. In fact, oops, let me change a setting here. Okay. So, and I know StatCrunch is weird and you see me do it and then you forget. Feel free to rewatch the video. Feel free to talk to me in office hours. Feel free to talk to them in the tutoring center. There's help available to get you through this. Also, your groups, if you're meeting together with your groups even once a week or something like that, it's really a lot of help that people can give each other between the homework and the project and all that kind of stuff. You can kind of help each other, point each other in the right direction. That's why we're doing this. Okay, let me delete this since it won't work for some of our stuff. Okay, so the survey question is pretty basic. Go in there, give the stats for your values, and then go from there. Don't try to change categorical data into numerical data. We don't want to do that. Okay, Andrew's asking a question. Just real quick, do you know where I can get the access code for Pearson so I may use StatCrunch to provide my data? Yeah, so if you got your access code for the homework, StatCrunch comes with that. If you didn't get your access code for the homework yet, you can get that for free in the bookstore. Okay, I haven't seen any students telling me there's any kind of issues, so I'm assuming that's all still working well. So if you haven't done that, then I guess that means you're behind. But you want to go in and go to the bookstore, tell them you're in my class and you need the access code, and they will take care of it for that. If you've already done that, then you already have StatCrunch available to you through the homework. Okay. I hope that answers the question. If it doesn't, talk to me after class and I can help you figure out your particular situation. Okay. Right. So that's what I'm looking for here. Nothing real fancy for survey question summary. But again, when you're doing these discussions, remember that the work you do now is going to make the work you do later easier. So, if you really try to do a good job when you're answering these questions, go, I could just try to spit this out in like 10 minutes, or I could spend 30 minutes and do a really good job. That just means in 2-3 months from, let's see what, it'd be about 2 months from now when you're going back to make your project, the better you've done the setup work, the easier it's going to be to put it all together. So it's really in your best interest to try to really do a good job on these posts, right? I'm fairly lenient with the points that I give out. If it looks like you came in and you did an honest attempt to do what was asked, you made a good comment, you answered the question, you followed the directions, you made a post, you did that, you're probably going to get full credit for it. But sometimes if you take a little bit extra time to do a little bit better job, it's just going to be that much easier for you when you go to make the project 2 months from now, right? It's that whole idea of, go slow to go fast. A lot of people don't, it's sort of a concept a lot of people don't get. You hear it associated to some of the Asian philosophies and stuff like that. You go slow to go fast because when people try to rush through every step of something, I'm going to get this done fast, I'm going to just rush through every step, you make more mistakes, and mistakes take a lot of time. An extra 10-15 minutes now to really do this part carefully will be easier than 8 weeks from now when you kind of forget what this is all about or how to do it, and you go back and you're like, I really need to do a better job for my project, but I don't remember how to do any of this stuff. That slows you down. So, an extra 15 minutes now might save you hours 2 months from now. So it's that go slow to go fast, right? Go a little slower now to set things up, and then later on it'll be easier for you. Okay. So there's the survey question. Okay, we've got our project visuals. Now this one is up to you as far as how you do this, right? So remember, as always, each group member needs to post in order to receive credit. The way it goes is I go through here and I look at individual posts, like, it goes through each student. Here's what this person posted. I look at it. Does that look legit? Yep. Okay, you get your points. Next student. When I get to you and you haven't left a post and it's blank, then I put a 0 in there. It doesn't matter if you were mentioned in someone else's posting. You have to leave a post with your answers, right? Otherwise you get a 0. Here's the thing. You all have different questions, and you all have different visualizations that are appropriate for those data and the different type of data, right? A bunch of the survey questions are quantitative. That means you're going to have a certain set to choose from for quantitative data. A lot of your questions were qualitative or categorical. That means you have a different set of tools to use for those. And there's no rule of thumb that I can just say, always use the histogram, never use a pie chart. You should have this many frequency tables and do this. This is where it starts to be up to you as the person doing the statistics, is you have to figure out what works. Now, I would think you should have at least one histogram in your project, and maybe multiple histograms. Sometimes people make multiple histograms for one question. So it's up to you, but adding in those other things, that's up to you. You remember, doing statistics is not about getting some numbers from a statistical software. It's about learning and understanding and communicating underlying connections between data and understanding underlying data. Well, one of the ways we communicate that is with visuals, but every set of data is going to tell a different story, right? So it's really, you're creating this narrative about the data that you want to convince people, this is what's going on with this data. This is what we uncovered here. And one of the ways you communicate that is with the visuals, but keep in mind, it's all different, right? One person using a histogram might another similar question histogram might not be the best way to display that. Or even two people using the same question, but they're exploring the data in different ways. One person might use a histogram, one person might use something else, right? So it's there's no golden rule where I can tell you this is exactly what your visuals should be, and this is why a group is helpful. You can get together and talk about it with people, where you go through and you create some stuff. Again, I would highly recommend, don't just, it's so easy to modify your histograms. Don't just make one, throw it up there and go on. That's what I was talking a little while about, going slow to go fast. Instead of just making one histogram and post it, make 5 histograms and go, ooh, it will take you like a minute to make 5 histograms. And then pick the best one and go, oh, this one seems like the best one to me. I'm going to pick this one. So how do you do that? We've got our graphs. So you go into histogram, right? I've got my height. And there's different options you can play around with. You can change your bin size. You can change where it starts. I'm not going to for this one. And you can get kind of fancy. Make sure you're labeling things. Remember, this X label, X-axis label, Y-axis label, anything going in a project, you definitely should have those filled in, and probably a title, right? That's a big clue when I look at your visuals and someone has a well-labeled visual and someone has a unlabeled visual. Right there, you're already setting the stage for me to go, this person with the well-labeled visuals knows what they're doing. This person with an unlabeled graph seems to not know what they're doing, right? You're sort of already, you're communicating to the world your level of competency with statistics. So make sure you're filling those in for the stuff you're actually going to turn in, okay? And so then we would go in and you would go compute, and then there you've got your histogram, right? And so and you can see it's pretty rough when we've only got like 20 data points here, and for the data, so we didn't get everyone to do the survey, but many of you did. We got up to like 28, I think. So your data is still going to be a little rough, but remember, you can just go back in and go, okay, well, let's options, let's edit this. What if I want my bin width? Let's see, what was the bin width? Oh, bin width is 1 right now. Let's say maybe you want your bin width. Go to options.
edit. I want the bin width to be, I'm just showing you that you can change it. Change it to 5, hit compute, see how we're getting a different graph. I'm not saying this is a good one, but I'm just showing you how you can change those settings in there. And sometimes when you change the settings for a histogram, you get a different shape, and you'll see something. Oh, there's a gap there. I wonder why there's a gap in that one spot. And then you can look into it. So play around with it. Like you can see, that took seconds to change it, right? If I go in here and edit and say, oh, what if I want my bin size to be 2? What is that going to look like? Compute. See how quick it is to change those? So just spend, like I say, make yourself at least 5 of each thing, trying to figure out what looks the best, and then go from there. So this question, how would we make a graph for categorical data? Right, so go back. Remember, we've got, where are we here? So you've got your, where was visuals? Chapter 2. So you've got organizing qualitative data, organizing quantitative data, right? I would recommend go back and look at those, because you have certain types of qualitative data, certain types of quantitative data. So for instance, let's see if I could put some together real quick. Let's go blue, black, green, So for example, right? So don't just rely on what I'm going to show you, because I'm going to give you an example of one way to do categorical data. But if you're wondering, you really should go back, review chapter 2 about organizing qualitative data, popular displays, and quantitative data. And just every time you look at a data at one of these displays, ask yourself, is that quantitative or qualitative? And then you can use those appropriately. But for instance, I can go back here. Let's just say this is eye color. I can go in here. I want to make a bar. Let's see, not a bar plot. Where's it's usually called a bar plot. I guess that's what they mean. Let's see, var3, compute. And here we have. Now you might go, well, wait, isn't that a histogram? No. Remember, on a bar chart, they're separate, because on a histogram, you have quantitative data, which is a continuum, like people's ages. You just sort of continue into the next bar as you go along. With categorical data, it doesn't look like that, because it's not like as your eyes get, did I choose black? I guess people don't really have black eyes, right? I guess brown is, I was just choosing colors, I guess, when I did this. But, as your eyes get bluer and bluer and bluer, they don't all of a sudden become brown, right? So these are separate, because this is not a continuum. You're either in this box or in this box or this one or this one, right? So yeah, just go back and review those visualizations, and that's why it's really nice that they're sort of organized like this. You can just go back and look really quick and go, oh yeah, I'm going to use that thing right there, right? And then remember this. So try to learn from what we learned about misrepresentations of data, and try to think, how can I display this data well? Because if you give me a graphic that is unlabeled and it's largely, it's misrepresentative of what you're trying to say, then, that's going to hurt your score, obviously. So, just try to set those up. StatCrunch is doing all the hard work of actually creating the graph. All you have to do is go in and pick some parameters and tell it what to do, okay? So remember that. Now, let's see. We'll see if we have time to get too much into, where is it? Chapter 4? Yeah, correlation, chapter 4. We're kind of running out of time. I'll probably talk about it a little bit, but we're getting to the point where I'm not going to be able to say very much. So what's largely going to happen is, as you're doing this information and hopefully doing a good job and putting your stuff aside so you have it ready for the end, what you're going to do at the end of the semester, so about two months from now, is you're actually going to create your video presentation of your material. Now, hopefully at that point, you've done all the actual statistics, and you may have to do a little more, because you're like, ooh, it just occurred to me I should add this one thing, but that won't take very long. And then you're going to make a video presentation of that. I don't care how you make the video presentation. I've had students literally hold their phone, like they print out their graphics, they hold their phone over it, and then they talk about the data while they record it. That's fine. Many of you have webcams at this point, so you can record yourself, kind of like I'm doing, where I've superimposed myself over the data.
Um, it doesn't have to be fancy, right? I'm not expecting you all to be amateur movie makers, but you have to put together some kind of a presentation that convinces me that what you learned, right? And remember, it's really about what you learned. I'm not expecting you to create a presentation that is ready to be published work in a statistics journal, right? I think that would be a little naive to think we would be doing that at the end of a introduction to statistics course. What I'm looking for, my job as a professor, is did you learn material, right? So I've had students that did very what you might call low budget or basic ways of putting together a video, but they really convinced me they learned the material. Okay, that's great. That works. So some of you have iMovie. You want to just throw some stuff together in iMovie and do a voiceover, however you want to do it. There are free screen capturing softwares out there available. I forget if is it Screencastify, or I don't remember what it's called. But there are things where you can record your screen while you do it. I've had some students, now careful, you cannot turn in a PowerPoint to me or Google Slides or anything like that. But I've had students say, well, can I use Google Slides for my visual, and then I make a video where I show the Google Slides or something like that? Yeah, I've had students do that, where on their screen they put together like a PowerPoint. So on their screen I'm seeing their visuals, and then they add their audio where they talk about it. That's totally great, right? However you want to see this. So remember, it's a 10-minute minimum video. Most 10-minute videos are not getting like A scores because they're usually missing major things. And you go, well, what should be in there? Anything you learned. Everything you learned over the course of a semester that you can throw at this information shows me that you learned that topic. If you talk about correlation and I go, that person knows correlation, boom, you just showed me that you learned that material. You do some hypothesis tests, and you know what you're talking about. That person learned hypothesis tests, and you get closer to that full score. So if there's a major portion of the class where you're not including that, you should ask yourself why. Why am I not including that? Well, it's like we have a chapter on probability. You're probably not going to be talking, you might talk a little bit about probability, but you're not going to probably specifically have probability coming into your project. You need to understand probability in order to understand everything that comes after this chapter, but it's kind of a support chapter. So I don't expect you to be doing a bunch of probabilities in your project, but when we get to the tools, like for instance, hypothesis testing or confidence intervals, if you don't have hypothesis tests or confidence intervals in your project, I would go, I wonder why they didn't include any of that stuff, because then you're not showing me that you learned that material. Most of the stuff that I've seen where they get full credit, you're talking more like 15 to 20 minutes, and I'm not encouraging you to make a long video. A 20-minute video that is just being stretched out so that it lasts 20 minutes is not better, right? You're really being judged on the content. But most of the students where they really show me that they've learned everything in the course usually takes at least 15 minutes. And some students go beyond that. I had a student last semester. She turned in, her video was over 40 minutes, but it was like, she just got an A. She literally went through and showed me like every, like it was above and beyond what you would expect for the analysis in a class like this. For a project at least, it was using the material from the course, but she covered everything, and it was clear she knew this class inside and out. She had taken every single topic in the course, and she understood it. Okay, great. I'm happy to give you 100% on the project. You don't have to do a 40-minute video. I've seen plenty of 15 to 20-minute videos that got 100% on the project because they covered all the topics. They showed me they knew what they were talking about, and the things they said make sense. If you come in, one thing I frequently see is people get confused on hypothesis testing. So they'll show me the results of their hypothesis test and then give me the exact wrong conclusion, right? Well, that's going to cost you some points because you clearly don't understand hypothesis testing, right? So many students do get hypothesis testing, and they do it exactly wrong. But I mean, exactly right. But that is a common mistake I'd see when we get to hypothesis testing, is people making their interpretations and they make the wrong interpretation, or they use the wrong language. We'll talk about language when we get to hypothesis testing. It's very easy to say the wrong thing if you're not being careful. And I know it kind of seems like, well, why is he being such a stickler about language? Well, language is important. If you one wrong word can give people a different opinion about something or a different impression. If you say, is the test on Friday, and I say yes, and it's not, the test is not on Friday, then I've only said one word wrong, right? But it's like a major mistake. I just told you the wrong date for the test. We don't have tests in this class, but you get what I'm saying, which is, one word here or there in the English language can completely change the meaning of something. So don't try to stretch your video just to go, oh, I'm going to try to get it to 15 minutes because he said those get A's. I see plenty of 15-minute videos that get C's because although the video is 15 minutes, the content is not there. So please don't try to stretch the video for time. I'm just giving you an indication of a lot of what I see. There aren't too many like 12-minute videos that are getting full credit. They're usually missing some significant stuff. I mean, I know it probably seems like a lot, like 15 minutes, but if you think about all the major topics that we're talking about in this course, there's like, 6 or 7 major topics. That's like 2 minutes each, and you have like 6 problems or questions from your survey. It's almost difficult not to talk for 15 minutes about it. So just sort of keep that in mind when you're doing these. You're going to be coming back later and using that. So think about, how do you want your visuals? Do you want to print them out and then use your phone to videotape the on the paper, or do you have some screen capture software? If you have Macs, there's plenty of screen capture software, same with Windows. And then, like I say, if you have iMovie, you can go put your audio track in there. YouTube has this, where there's a little editor in YouTube now where you can add an audio track to your visuals, and you can go through and do that. And then, just to be clear, because whenever I say PowerPoint and then someone wants to turn in a PowerPoint, you can't give me a PowerPoint. You can use a PowerPoint in your video. What you turn into me has to be a video. Okay. And we'll go from there. So I did not get to correlation today, which is what I was going to talk about. So we will talk about correlation next time. And I actually have a video. So here's what I'll tell you about StatCrunch. I forget how to use StatCrunch, right? Because it's like we cover a certain section. The next time I do that is going to be 6 months from now. So sometimes I forget, like, if you're looking at StatCrunch, I'm like, is the thing I'm looking for under stat or is it under graph? Like, sometimes, it should be kind of obvious. But what I'm saying is, and data, sometimes I forget where something is. And am I supposed to go under the T-stats for this one? Or what is it I'm trying to do? I forget that myself. So all I do, like this morning I did this where I couldn't remember, like, how do I do all the correlation stuff at once? Right? I know there's a way to do all of it that I need at once, but I can't remember how to do it. So I literally just went to Google and I looked up correlation StatCrunch, right? This is a skill. Most of you have grown up on the internet. You should be familiar with Google. If you're trying to do something in StatCrunch, just go to Google and type StatCrunch and then whatever it is that you're looking at. So StatCrunch correlation, StatCrunch regression, StatCrunch hypothesis test, StatCrunch confidence interval. Whatever it is that you're trying to do, just put it in there. And then what came up, it's going to give you some videos and some websites. And the videos, like, literally I had to watch this thing for like a couple minutes and go, oh, that's right. That's where it is. That's what I'm supposed to do. So let me see. Let me just share this. So those of you who want to get going on your, don't want to embed. I just want a link. Let's copy that. So those of you who want to get started on this, I'm just going to put the link to that video in the chat here. You're welcome to use that video. It's a great video that just tells you exactly how to go through. It'll give you your scatter plot that you need for your correlation. It's going to give you your regression line. It's going to give you the equation for your regression line. It's like a 3.5-minute video that basically tells you how to do all this stuff that you're going to want to do for the project. Remember, this is for two types of quantitative data. All right, that's a big thing. I see people make mistakes on the project, and it's kind of a red flag when I see a student do it, because it shows that it sort of suggests you don't understand statistics very well, is trying to use the wrong tool for the wrong type of data, right? Trying to apply a mean to categorical data. That doesn't work. Trying to create a bar chart for quantitative data, something like that. We're using the wrong tool. So make sure when you're looking at this chapter that you're thinking of quantitative data. You need two sets of quantitative data in order to follow along and do this chapter. So I will expand on this next time. We'll talk about the same video next time. But those of you who are like, well, I'd like to move ahead and get started on this next stuff, feel free to do that. You can watch the video. It's very easy to follow, and you'll just do the same exact thing in StatCrunch for your, once you've got your data cleaned up and you're ready to go, you can start applying it. And then we'll talk about it next time. So just do be aware, coming up in a little less than a week, you have 3 different parts of the project that are due. None of them should take you very long. Like, I mean, I would think at the most spending 30 minutes on each of these at the most should do it, right? And probably less than that. I mean, this survey, the survey stat summary, should probably take you about 10 minutes in order to do that for all of your questions, and then post it and then be done. Project visuals, again, take your time with the project visuals. Doing a good job now is going to help you a lot down the road. Otherwise, you'll be doing this when you're crunched for time and it won't come out as good. The project correlation stuff shouldn't take terribly long, because you're going to follow along what he does in this video. And then you're going to, make some, where was the thing I was looking at? You're going to make some connections and stuff like that. You probably don't have a million quantitative questions. You probably only have a couple. So, hours worked per week and units taken this semester. All right. Is there a connection between the amount people work and the amount of school they do? Like, is that an inverse relationship, a direct relationship? What's going on there? Well, that would be a great thing to throw into your correlation and see how that works, so you can follow along with that. So, I mean, I said max 30 minutes. Probably you should spend the most time on this project visuals. Don't just go with your first visual. Play around with the details. See if you can get one that really is a good version, well labeled. Save it. It's all ready to go for 2 months from now. Okay, down here, your correlation, I don't know, 15 minutes, probably 20 minutes, you're probably good to go. And bring this stuff together to your group. Show each other in your group what you've done, and there's probably going to be someone that goes, I don't understand. I keep trying to do the correlation, and I'm doing it wrong. And you can go, oh, I see what you're doing wrong. Let me help you, right? And then you all help each other out, and you're all better off, right? So yeah, do that. So we'll pick up talking about where are we? Chapter 4, scatter plots and correlation next time. Many of you, I think, could work ahead and work through that if you wanted to. It's up to you. And there we go. I'm not sure what A means in the chat there, if that was just a mistake or something. But feel free to ask me any more questions if you need to. So with that, I'm going to close down the YouTube stream. Anyone who wants to come talk to me in Zoom, please do so, and I can answer any questions for you and help you out with whatever you need. Otherwise, I will see you in a couple days. Okay, thanks, everybody.